Let's be honest. Our world has gotten pretty toxic. But here's the thing, it doesn't have to stay that way. You have more power than you think to clean up your home, your body, and the planet. Imagine living in a world where the air is actually clean and the food nourishes you and the stuff in your home actually helps you feel better instead of slowly making you sick. Where your choices don't just protect your health, they actually help heal the earth. That's what we're about here on the Green Living Now podcast. I'm Amy Tedisco, your host, and each week we dive into real conversations, practical tips, and powerful stories to help you live cleaner, feel better, and make a real difference. Today's guest is living proof that you can do way more than other people think is possible. Christie was diagnosed with Friedreich's ataxia, FA, a rare neurodegenerative disease that only 5,000 people in the United States have, and she was just 23. Doctors told her about all the things that she couldn't do, but she had other plans. She's built a beautiful life, embraced a toxin-free green lifestyle, raised a family, and even trained a 130-pound dog from her wheelchair. In this conversation, Christy shares her journey and how she shifted to organic food and non-toxic household products, the surprising impact of hidden food ingredients like MSG, and how mindset has kept her thriving. If you've ever needed a reminder that you're stronger than your circumstances, this is it. Let's dive in. So, Christy, welcome to the Green Living Now podcast. I am really intrigued by your story because, as you told me, you are one of 5,000 people in the United States that has this particular condition, and you're going to have to remind me the name of it.
Friedreich's ataxia.
Oof, man, that's a mouthful.
It is FA for short.
FA for short. And you said only 15,000 people worldwide have this?
Yeah, they estimate.
Wow. And so before we got on here, you were telling me that both parents have to have, and you said it was an infected gene?
Correct.
And even with that, you only had a 25% chance of getting it.
Correct.
Right. Okay. Wow. If you could just help the listeners understand what are the symptoms of this? Like, what are you dealing with every day?
Well, not necessarily me dealing with it, but I'll tell you a little bit about FA.
Sure.
It's a rare, life-threatening neurodegenerative disorder.
Okay.
And it progressively causes balance and coordination issues. Like
Okay.
most people end up in a wheelchair, which I'm currently in a wheelchair.
Okay. And it affects your speech.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does affect speech. You can have some swallowing and speech difficulty.
Oh, okay.
Diabetes.
Oh, gosh.
Heart issues are a big one. It's
Okay.
generally what gets most people. You have a thickening of the heart wall.
Oh.
You can get scoliosis.
And so is this something that you were basically born with and started to develop symptoms?
No, that's the important part. It normally affects mostly children.
Okay.
And when children get it, they may make it till their 30s because all the developing they're still doing.
Right.
And there are a few people that get it later in life.
Okay.
And I was one of those. I was diagnosed at 23.
No way. So you had a relatively normal life up
I
until...
did. I was very active, always outdoors, climbing trees.
Oh my gosh.
I was in dance for several years, and we did competitive something and just very active softball.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
no clue, nothing was wrong.
And so what was the first sign that you knew something was not right?
At 17, my now husband and I were involved in really serious car accident.
Oh my goodness.
And it was years after that, my mother, I think, started noticing some balance Maybe if I was walking, I would take a step to,
Right.
and by the time I graduated from college, we were going to move to go to graduate school. And she really wanted me to go get an MRI just to
Oh,
check and make sure I
right.
was okay. And even at that point, the MRI come back clean.
Really?
And so I'm like, oh, I'm fine. See,
And so did your mom think that maybe it was a maybe traumatic brain injury?
yeah, something to do with the car
Right, with a
wreck.
car accident. Okay.
Mhm. She was worried about that.
Okay. Alright,
And
so
when
clean MRI.
the MRI was clean, and so I was fine. That was enough for me.
Yeah.
I was fine, And truth be told, though, I would notice, like in the shower, if I closed my eyes, I would almost get off balance a little.
Oh, okay, so you knew
And
something was going on.
well, I just attributed my grandparents, my grandmothers were clumsy people. I just attributed,
Yeah, just the
that's
family
okay.
trait.
Yeah. And went on. And in the middle of law school, I had a friend ask me, why do you what you do? And I'm like, what?
And you didn't
Uh,
even notice that you were walking differently.
no, I didn't. I mean, in law school, you carry backpacks of lots of things to be booked.
Exactly.
And so I didn't realize, and it made me kind of revisit one of the things from the initial MRI.
Mhm.
Doctor suggested further testing
Oh.
in several areas, and Friedreich's ataxia was one of them.
Oh, no kidding. Now what made
Mhm.
him suspect that?
That was just based on my symptoms,
I see.
clean MRI, not MS.
Oh.
So perhaps these are the other things I want to get
I
some
see. So
further tests.
even though it's super rare, it sounds like your doctor kind of ruled out what some of the common things might be for those symptoms. Is that
Mm,
Oh, wow, okay. So did you finish law school?
I did.
Oh, wow, impressive. And
Yeah.
do you practice law?
No,
Mm.
I did not. That's our story.
Oh,
We moved back at the same time, about the same time I was diagnosed. My mother was diagnosed with stage 4 breast
oh,
cancer.
I thought you were gonna say the same thing. Oh my gosh. At the
No,
same time
and
you were
so
diagnosed?
right around the same time.
Mm.
And so literally in law school, my whole world fell apart.
I would imagine.
I was newly married. I had, just been diagnosed. My mom was diagnosed.
Ooh,
And so we moved back then
yeah.
to stay with her.
Okay.
And I was trying to study for the bar.
My
I
God.
had passed 2 parts at the bar, and I was working on the third. And she was like, if you're this unhappy doing it, perhaps
Oh,
you want to think about doing something that would make you more happy, even if it's not what you planned
right.
on
So
doing.
so she could tell that you were not happy doing law.
Well, it was frightening because I knew I wanted to have a family. The children
Oh,
were always very important to me.
yes.
And with this diagnosis, it was, mm, they didn't know,
Whether you
you
could
know.
even have children.
Mhm.
Okay.
I knew I had 100% to give to one area, maybe not two. Some people are great about working and raising a family
Yes.
and wearing many hats, but I knew with my condition, I may not have the energy
Yes,
to have that many have.
I
So,
understand. Did you end
um,
up having children?
mhm,
Mhm.
two beautiful children that are
Oh,
the joy of my existence.
oh, that's so great. I'm so glad to hear
Mm.
that.
Yeah, in fact, my mother, who passed away in 99, my son was 9 months old when she
Oh,
passed away, so she
wow.
got to meet one of her
Well, that's
grandchildren.
good. Wow. My goodness. Okay, so you have this diagnosis, you've stopped law school, you ended up having a family, which is amazing. What have you learned about how to manage these symptoms, or how did you start this sort of green living lifestyle?
Nowhere along did I ever get any nutritional advice,
From any doctors?
right from any doctor. It
Right,
was
they don't
never
even study
mentioned.
even
Yeah,
really study it in
right.
medical school
They
apparently.
didn't
4
know.
hours. Yeah.
But the first doctor that originally diagnosed me did say stress will make my condition worse.
I'm not
That was
surprised.
one of the worst places I could be, she said. I kind of took that message and thought, okay, well, then you can't avoid stress, but you
Exactly.
can deal with it differently.
Right.
You can learn how it affects you different.
Yeah, so did you develop some techniques for managing stress?
Well, yes and no, I guess. Just the positive outlook I try to have.
That's a
The,
really good one.
the glass is half full.
Yes.
Oh, um, then many, many years later, in 2020, I had a dog, a long dog, 12 years old,
Oh, wow.
pass away to cancer.
Okay.
And it kind of hit us out of the blue, and it
Ooh.
was quick. And so at that point, I knew eventually I would want another dog. And so I jumped into how to best care for this dog.
Yes.
And I got into what kibble was really made
Oh,
out of.
yes.
Yeah.
That's a terrifying discovery, isn't it?
Yes, all the things you thought you were doing good, we were repeating. The better kibble,
I was
really.
with you, Christy. I
Yeah.
used to feed the highest quality kibble to my dogs, thinking that it was pretty good stuff. And I was so disappointed to see. Did you ever see it's like a roll called Fresh Pet? Is it like
Mhm.
Whole Foods, right?
Yeah.
So I did that for a while, but then I have an 18-year-old dog, believe it or not, and
Okay.
he's still going strong, but he started having a lot of stomach problems with the fresh pet. So I started making them food from scratch, which is what I did actually. The first dog I ever had, when I
Mm.
adopted him, I started feeding him homemade organic food from the time that he was 6 weeks old. And now that's what I do for these guys. So I'm curious about where you went with it.
Well, yeah, I think that rabbit hole led me down to, "Hmm, wonder what's in my food that."
Ooh, so that was the first trigger, was looking at dog food, and then it made you think about human food. Okay.
I'd always grew up though, like where we're from, it's a very rural area.
Yes.
And everyone gardens. My grandparents
Ah.
had two big gardens.
Oh, nice.
And she always cooked from scratch. And
Wonderful.
mushrooms are brain food. She was wise beyond her
Yes.
years.
And
Yeah, would talk about eating dandelions as a
oh my
child
goodness.
and, just new nature, really well plants.
That's amazing.
And so I grew up with the notion of better food
Right.
meant
And
better
did you
health.
eat those things like the dandelions and the mushrooms and all that?
Not dandelions, but I was very always. eating out of her garden the fresh
Oh,
vegetables,
that's great.
turnips, cabbage,
Yeah.
peas were my favorite.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
she made wonderful like blackberry jam, fresh,
Mm, yum.
and so I think I had a good foundation of
Yes,
food's good. Now, of course,
absolutely.
when I got to be a teenager, I was more of the sad diet, I guess
Okay.
you
Yep.
might say. It took a while to get back to
Yes.
good foundation, I
Well, I
guess.
understand that because I raised my daughter on all organic whole foods, and she's 32, and she tells me how difficult it was for her. I even sent her to a Waldorf school, which is kind of, I thought,
Mhm.
gonna be a lot more healthy people and parents, and that kind of food was going to be the norm. But apparently not. They were coming with their Yoplait yogurts and, all the different mainstream stuff. And so she said, it made her feel separate and different. And it was embarrassing. And I thought, that is such a bummer because she was never sick, but all of her friends
Right.
were sick. And so, yeah, I totally get that whole. And I think it's a conundrum for a lot of people who are trying to be health conscious that they can't always get their family members on board. And so it's a little bit easier, I think, when the kids are younger, maybe as long as they're not super picky eaters. But I think by the time we become teenagers, we have pretty strong beliefs about what we want and what we don't not want.
Well, see, when my children were little, I intuitively did things like reducing their sugar.
Oh, smart.
We didn't do artificial flavors, but and just little things like that.
Wow.
We tried to eliminate dyes and things like
Right. Oh, that's so
that.
smart.
Fructose corn syrup, but
Oh, yes. That's a
and
nasty
like,
one.
yeah.
Yeah, I actually tell the story of how when I first knew my husband, he's an organic farmer.
Mhm.
And so like 35 years has been growing these amazing fruits and vegetables and making maple syrup, but wasn't necessarily eating his own vegetables. And
Mhm.
so when he was single, he would go eat at his parents' house because they used to live just down from us. And he used to get sick every year at the end of the farm season. Always said he would get bronchitis type of thing.
Mm.
And I kind of took that as a challenge. I thought, well,
Mhm.
I don't get sick. So I'm wondering if we start eating the way that I have been and I cleaned out any toxic household products, would that make a difference? And in fact, it did. It was about a year, I'd say, and he doesn't get sick. He doesn't get that bronchitis anymore. Even if something starts, we're able to knock it out pretty quick, both of us. So
Mhm.
I see the impact of eating this way and living this non-toxic lifestyle. Not that you have to be perfect, right? Because for me, it's all about progress. And I still eat out sometimes and go to other people's
Mhm.
houses. And I like sweets. So occasionally I'll eat cookies from the store. I try to get them
Right.
without the high fructose. But
Sure.
yeah, so
Well, you can make better choices
yes.
even if they're not the best choices.
That is a great way of looking at it. Yes, you don't have to be perfect, but you can at least
Mhm.
avoid certain things that, well, and so it was interesting on the clean eating secrets workshop that I just did last week. We were talking about MSG because I had shared that on my daughter's birthday, she really wanted to get takeout Chinese. And normally the Chinese food store here is pretty good, but I don't know if they changed something because they hadn't been using MSG.
Yeah.
But my daughter, my husband, and my stepdaughter and I all in the middle of the night had such an incredibly dry mouth. And the
Mhm.
only thing I could think of was that it had to be the Chinese food, that something was different. And so the people on the call were also talking about how some of them have bad reactions to MSG, and so they avoid that. And the tricky label issue around MSG is that it can be called yeast extract and I
Right.
think 4 or 5 other different names. Have you found that to be the case?
You know, you always have to be very careful if
Like
you
a
do read
detective.
that. Yeah, because it's always they change the name.
Yes.
You think you've got it, and you stick with one product,
Right.
and then it's slightly changed or
Well, and
something.
especially if a corporation buys an independent company.
Mm,
Those are
yeah.
the ones that are really frustrating because I don't know if you've seen that map, but there's a pretty
Oh, yes, the smart
map,
aleck.
right? Right. So you see which big food companies essentially own all the rest, right? There's a
Mhm.
few standouts that are still independent, and I actually list them in my clean eating mastery course just because I wanted to find out who is still an independent organic food company. And there's
Wow.
still a good number. And I also understand if somebody creates a business and it's really successful and maybe they don't want to keep doing it for the rest of their lives, of course, it's going to make sense to them to sell it. But then what happens to the ingredients and the quality and all that? So, and so, yeah, to your point, I've been doing this for 30 years and it's still changing. I mean, I recently learned about natural flavors. I hadn't really paid that much attention to
Yes.
it,
Yeah.
but to find that natural flavors in certified organic food aren't necessarily organic, those flavors.
And those are kind of a bane of my existence,
Oh,
the
is that right?
natural flavors and the seed oils. They're
Oh,
in
seed oils,
almost
yes.
everything.
Right. Even
Yep.
organic seed
Yeah.
oils can be inflammatory to the body. It gives us too much as omega 6s, and we need more omega 3s.
Threes.
Yeah.
I try at least if they're organic, like I know sunflower oil is the seed oil, but I think it's the Lake sunflower
Oh,
seed
yes, I know
oil
what you're talking
that's
about.
possibly better
Right.
if you have to have.
Yeah, I typically, if I don't get olive oil, I usually will go with
Yeah.
avocado oil.
Yeah, oh, those are my two go-to
Oh, is
oils.
that right? Yeah. I mean, I figure avocado is such a healthy fat, as is olive oil. So
Mm.
those are actually good. I mean, when I make salad dressing, I have this special maple balsamic vinaigrette, although I don't
Mm.
always use balsamic. Sometimes I do apple cider vinegar because I know that that's a really healthy vinegar. So even if I finish my salad, I drink the dressing.
Right, right.
So you did a deep dive into your food. Is there any other stuff that you have done that's helped your health be best?
Yes, starting the rabbit hole, I started looking at everything. I mean, cleaners and my personal products and
Yes.
what I ate, I was determined to increase, even though I ate a lot of vegetables and fruits. I
Yes.
I should eat more, and so I did that, and then I went to finally mostly organic,
Yes.
regenerative farming. In
Oh,
fact,
that's wonderful. And
find it.
you have access to it in Kentucky?
We order. You
Oh,
have
okay.
to
So you do the
order.
online.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to do a
Yeah.
lot of the Thrive Market
Oh,
is
yes,
really
Thrive, of
good.
course.
Yeah,
Are you aware of, oh gosh, it's a Misfits, I think it's called.
misfits.
Have you
Yeah,
tried them?
yes. I do some of their produce.
Yes, because
Yeah,
I
I
got them
really
early
miss
on.
picking my own produce, and
Yes, me
that's
too.
preferable,
Me too.
but for the ease of getting products and
Yes.
stuff, we do some misfits
Yeah.
occasionally.
Is it
Um,
good quality?
Most of the time it is.
Okay, good.
Even with misfits or Thrive, you still got to read some labels because
Yeah,
maybe their conscientiousness is different from yours.
totally. And Christy, that is exactly the case for any natural food store that
Mm.
I've ever been in. Whole Foods or ones here in Vermont, it doesn't matter. It seems like there is a bunch of junk still in there that's sort of masked as healthy. So, yeah, you have to really know what you're looking for.
So I've got to watch for those natural flavors.
Yes, those sneaky natural flavors.
Mm.
Have you noticed a difference when you switch to eating organic food and have much cleaner household products and personal care products? Did you notice any difference in your health?
I did. I just felt a little better, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
After I got the food, the cleaners, the
Yes.
products, somewhat under, I stair stepped. I went
Oh,
to things like Mrs. Myers and Method, thinking, oh, well, they're better than
Oh, I know.
their
That's one of those
Lysol
marketing
or
gimmicks.
yeah. And then the more I dove, I thought, oh, wait, those aren't as good either. We need to go to things like Dr. Bronner's
Yes.
or
Yes.
vinegar-based
You
cleaning
got it.
or things like that.
Yes.
So it's a transition,
You're absolutely right.
from better to best, I guess.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
And then I started diving into, well, I need to move more. That was kind of the
Oh,
cornerstone, Being in the wheelchair, you don't move
yes.
as much as you should.
Yeah.
And so I started getting an exercise bike that you can actually roll up to as opposed
Oh,
to
wow.
transferring to another piece of
So
equipment.
you can do it while you're on the wheelchair, you can do the bike?
Yes,
Oh,
you strap
wow.
your legs in and
Yes.
you do the arms too.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's kind of like an elliptical, but I
Yeah.
use my own chair.
Oh,
And
wow.
just a few of that, and then I started incorporating just what I call my cardio, my strength,
Yeah.
my core now.
Sure.
Is it exercise like a normal person would do? No.
But
But
who cares? It's specific to you.
yeah, it's movement for me and I feel pretty good. And with all that, I noticed my strength improved
Oh, interesting.
actually.
That's
With
great.
doing those few things.
Are you able to stand up at all or no?
When I transfer,
You can
not
put weight
not
on your
really.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
really. Okay.
I can pretty confidently
Yeah.
transfer
Oh,
around
good.
and
That's
stuff,
good.
and I can stand up, not
Not
I
for very
can't
long.
do anything with
Yeah, yeah. So, is there anything else that you've done that's like, have you gone into the sort of holistic health realm at all with herbs or homeopathy or Ayurveda or any of that stuff?
you know, I learn about it. I haven't dipped my toe in it per
Yeah.
se.
Okay.
I'm interested in it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Because one of the things that I have come upon is something called life wave patches. Have you ever heard of those?
No.
So they're phototherapy. They look like little round stickers, and they're phototherapy where it basically reflects your own body's heat and light back into your cells. And it's
Yeah.
supposed to help wake up your stem cells because they tell us that by the time we're 60 years old, is it 50% of our stem cells are no longer active? I think it's that, or it might be even worse. Maybe it's 50% when we're 30 and only 10. I forget the numbers now, but there's a variety of different patches that this company makes. But the one that people typically start with, that I started with, was called X39. And
Mm.
I am blown away by the results that a lot of people are getting. I don't have a lot of imbalances, thankfully, or I don't have any imbalances
Mhm.
that I'm aware of. So I didn't find it made a significant difference in my life, except for it made me sleep more deeply because I'm a pretty light sleeper. And I did
Yeah.
notice that if I felt pain in any part of my body, I would just stick it on that spot and it actually would go away.
Mm.
So I'm curious if that might have any use
I
for
might
you.
have to look in that life.
Yeah, yeah. I'll send you an email to follow up so that you can look at a video and check it out and see, because
Okay.
I'm on a Facebook group. I mean, it's helping people with dementia, it's helping people with Crohn's disease, getting rid of tendinitis. It's just mind-boggling to me. And I feel like this is the direction that medicine is going, or that healthy medicine is going, right? It's about light therapy, vibration, sound therapy, and getting away from the pharmaceuticals.
Interestingly enough, I do some infrared sauna.
Oh, no kidding.
hmm
And does that
And
help?
I think so.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm intrigued
not
by
that
that too.
definitively I can't stand up and say, oh, I'm cured because
Right,
of
right.
this. But I think all these modalities improve and help.
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
figure if it's enhancing the natural systems of the body, because, ultimately our bodies are designed to heal if we give it the
Right.
right things, right?
Right.
That's why I'm so happy that we have these choices and there's new things coming out all the time that I feel as though, we'll be able to hopefully transform from this American sick care system to an
Yes.
actual wellness
Yes.
system.
It just would make so much more sense if we invested the money that into the healthcare that we do for prevention.
Oh my gosh,
Can you
$4.1
imagine?
trillion dollars we spend on
Yes.
healthcare in this country, and we have some of the worst health outcomes in the world. You're
Yes.
absolutely right. If we could turn that money into looking at all these cool, even the ancient stuff, whether it's herbs and
Right.
Ayurveda, Chinese medicine, as well as the newer stuff, I think we would be in so much better. And then especially cleaning up our food and household products would
And,
be
and
huge.
the other piece I just got was a vibrational plate.
Oh, wow.
So you curious to see as the more I
Yes.
get to use that. I've only had a time or two
Oh,
to
nice. I'll
use
be
it.
very curious to hear how that
So
helps you because I've heard that that can be extremely important, especially for people that are more sedentary and
yes,
elderly.
that
So,
was my hope that it
yes,
would get that lymph moving.
exactly,
That I don't.
exactly. That's great. Well, gosh, you are into so many wonderful things. I guess my last question for you is what do you feel has helped you create this positive, half full, or maybe glass full kind of attitude?
I think it's just having the foundation that I did, the healthier foundation through with my grandmother and her canning and cooking and gardening. And then I think that, the neurologist originally told me stress is going to make my condition worse. And that made me kind of rethink, okay,
Mhm.
maybe I need to reframe how stress affects me.
Yes.
I think, looking back, a neurologist once told me right after the birth of my first child,
Yeah.
well, I can't wait to see how you do with the baby. And
Mm.
I don't know if he meant it that way, but it,
Yeah.
it seemed very, well, what do you
What does that
mean? I'll
mean?
do just fine with the baby.
Right.
And I guess and my mom telling me as she was battling breast cancer, I need to do what makes me most happy, even if it wasn't what I had planned on,
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
envisioned. And
Yes.
I think those
It's
three
good.
things kind of laid the cornerstone
That's awesome.
and deciding that, sometimes we can't always control everything, but we can control how things affect us.
Right, our reaction to them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's such good advice. Wow. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wish that I had?
I don't think so. Is there
Okay.
anything you want to ask that I haven't addressed?
I think we've covered a lot.
Mm,
I'm so impressed with what you have accomplished. I
thank you.
mean, the fact that you have 2 healthy children is
I
amazing
did.
in and of itself.
And that was the thing. We actually, traveled extensively all over.
Oh, that's
And
amazing.
for those that think, oh, I'm in a wheelchair, I can't do it. Yes, you can.
Ah, you're living proof.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. This is such a powerful one.
Well, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Green Living Now podcast. I hope that Christie's story reminded you of how powerful your choices are, even in the face of big challenges. And speaking of powerful choices, I have a free tool to help you take the next step towards your healthier, less toxic life. It's called the Toxin-Free Pantry Quiz, and it only takes about 3 minutes. You might be surprised at what's hiding in your pantry, even if you think that you're shopping healthy. In just 3 minutes, this quiz will help you spot the hidden toxins in your pantry and help you feel more confident about what you're purchasing and eating. Head over to my website, greenlivingnow.com, or just grab the link in the show notes and take the quiz now. You deserve to feel good about every bite that you take, and I'm here to help you do just that. See you next time, and stay green.